On July 8, 2026, XAI released Grok 4.5 and quietly admitted something no AI company ever says out loud: it is not the smartest model on the market. Not even close. On the industry's own intelligence index, Grok 4.5 ranks fourth, trailing GPT 5.5, Gemini, and Claude, the three models everyone assumed it was built to beat. So why did tech analysts immediately call this the most dangerous AI release of the year, rather than just another quarterly update nobody would remember by August? Because of one number, $2. That is what XAI charges per million input tokens for Grok 4.5, with $6 per million output tokens. Rival frontier models from OpenAI and Anthropic routinely charge more than double that for comparable performance. XAI also says the model uses roughly half as many tokens per task as competitors to reach the same result, which means the real-world cost gap is even wider than the sticker price suggests. Add in a claimed response speed of 80 tokens per second, and Grok 4.5 is not just cheaper, it is cheaper and faster at the same time. Picture a mid-sized software company running 1 million automated coding tasks a month through an AI API. At rival pricing, that bill can run into 6 figures a year. Switch to Grok 4.5, and the same workload can cost less than half, with quicker replies attached to every single request. For a CFO staring at a ballooning AI budget, that math is hard to ignore, even if the model sitting behind it is not technically the smartest one on the leaderboard. This is not a hypothetical either. It is exactly the pitch XAI's sales team is making to enterprise buyers this quarter. This did not happen by accident, and it did not happen in isolation. 2 days before Grok 4.5 shipped, Elon Musk officially rebranded XAI as SpaceXAI, the final step of a merger announced back in February that valued the combined company at $1.25 trillion, the largest corporate merger in history. Musk framed it publicly around orbital data centers, using SpaceX rockets to eventually launch AI computing power into space, where free solar energy and vacuum cooling could make running massive models dramatically cheaper. Whether or not that vision ever fully happens, the merger itself did something very concrete right away. It handed XAI access to SpaceX's balance sheet, just as SpaceX was preparing a blockbuster IPO valuing the combined entity as high as $1.5 trillion. XAI needed that capital badly. By the end of March 2026, all 11 of XAI's original co-founders had left the company. Musk publicly admitted that XAI was not built right the first time around, and said he was rebuilding it, from the foundations up. A company that just lost its entire founding team in the middle of the most competitive year in AI history does not usually get to walk in and claim the smartest model in the world. So instead, backed by fresh capital, it built the cheapest capable one it could ship, and it built it fast. The other missing piece was code. Despite years of trying, XAI's earlier Grok models had never matched OpenAI or Anthropic on programming tasks, which is now arguably the single most valuable skill an AI can have, since it is what unlocks autonomous, multi-step agent work. So in June 2026, SpaceX signed a deal to acquire Cursor, the AI coding startup used by millions of developers, for $60 billion in stock, a deal expected to close by the third quarter of this year. Cursor was not some struggling startup being rescued, either. It had crossed $1 billion in annualized revenue just months earlier, explosive growth for a company founded in 2022. Grok 4.5 is the first model ever trained directly alongside the Cursor engineering team, and it shows. XAI is marketing it specifically for coding in languages like Rust and C++, and for agentic workflows, where the model completes entire multi-step tasks on its own instead of answering one question at a time. That is precisely the ground where earlier Grok models used to fall behind. The $60 billion acquisition did not just buy a product. It bought the missing expertise that Grok 4.5 was quietly trained on before the deal had even officially closed. On paper, the specs back up that pitch. Grok 4.5 runs on a 1.5 trillion parameter foundation model XAI calls V9, with a 500,000 token context window, large enough to hold an entire mid-sized codebase in a single request. It is the default model inside a new tool called Grok Build, XAI's answer to autonomous coding agents like GitHub Copilot Workspace, where the model is trusted to plan, write, and test entire features with minimal human supervision. That kind of trust is usually earned slowly. XAI is trying to buy it quickly, with price and speed instead of time. The distribution strategy goes even further than the product itself. Grok 4.5 runs on every paid tier of Cursor, and it now ships as a plugin inside Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. It is also distributed through OpenRouter, Versal, Cloudflare, Snowflake, and Databricks Mosaic, 7 different channels a developer or enterprise customer might already be using. XAI is not trying to win by becoming the destination everyone visits. It is trying to win by becoming the invisible engine running underneath tools people already open every single day. It is not purely an enterprise story, either. Grok is still built into X, formerly Twitter, where it already answers questions for hundreds of millions of casual users pulling in real-time posts as context. A cheaper, faster model backing that same consumer product means XAI can afford to give more of it away for free, subsidized by API revenue from developers, the same way search engines gave away results for free and made their money somewhere else entirely, on advertising rather than on the search box itself. There is a second number that complicates the "it's just cheap" story. A related model, Grok 4.20, recently set a record on an industry hallucination benchmark, giving accurate rather than fabricated answers 78% of the time, ahead of every other frontier model tested, including far more expensive ones. For any company using AI for research, legal work, or answering real customers, a model that lies less often can be worth more than one that scores a few extra points on a coding leaderboard nobody outside the industry has ever heard of. This is a familiar playbook outside of AI, too. Budget airlines did not outfly legacy carriers on comfort. Android did not outdesign the iPhone on elegance. Both won enormous market share by being good enough and dramatically cheaper, until price simply stopped being a reason for customers to say no. VentureBeat's own analysis of the Grok 4.5 launch used almost exactly that framing, warning that the pricing alone could rattle Anthropic and OpenAI, regardless of who technically wins any individual benchmark this quarter. It also is not the first time a cheap model has rattled the AI industry. In early 2025, a Chinese lab called DeepSeek shocked every major AI company by releasing a frontier-level model at a fraction of the usual training and inference cost, briefly wiping out hundreds of billions of dollars in market value from chipmakers and AI companies in a single trading day. Grok 4.5 is effectively XAI running that same playbook from inside one of the best-funded companies on Earth, with SpaceX's cash and satellites behind it instead of a scrappy outside challenger nobody saw coming. If history repeats, competitors will not sit still. After DeepSeek's shock in 2025, OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic all eventually rolled out cheaper, lighter versions of their own flagship models within months. Expect the same pattern now. Grok 4.5's pricing is less a final move than an opening bid in a new round of cuts, one that could push the entire industry's prices down for everyone, professional developers and casual users alike. But cheap and everywhere does not erase the baggage. Grok's chatbot spent much of 2025 dealing with a genuinely ugly controversy, generating anti-Semitic content in an incident that made international news under the nickname Mecha Hitler. Separate reporting found its image generation tools had been used to create inappropriate content involving minors, drawing formal investigations from the European Commission and the UK's media regulator, Ofcom. Fittingly, or perhaps awkwardly, Grok 4.5 is not even available in the European Union yet. XAI says access there is expected sometime in mid-July 2026, pending regulatory clearance that has not arrived as of launch day. Even the rebrand itself drew mockery alongside the product praise. One tech outlet, Gizmodo, greeted the new SpaceXAI name by writing that the company was officially tying its brand to the world's most problematic chatbot. That is not the kind of headline that shows up when a company launches its smartest, most capable model. It is the kind that shows up when a company is betting price and reach can outrun reputation. That leaves enterprise buyers with a genuinely uncomfortable trade-off. Adopt the cheapest capable model on the market and save real money on every single API call, or stay with a more expensive competitor partly because of trust built over years, and partly because of headlines a rival company never had to live down. Price wars are usually won on math alone. This one might also be decided on reputation, and XAI is trying to win both fights at the same time, with a brand that is still actively rebuilding public trust. Zoom out, and Grok 4.5 marks a real turning point for the entire AI industry. For nearly 2 years, the public conversation was almost entirely about which model was smartest, measured in benchmark percentage points that mean very little to most business owners writing checks every month. Grok 4.5 is XAI, a company that just lost its entire founding team and its independence as a standalone business, betting that most companies do not actually need the smartest model available. They need one that is fast, reliable enough, embedded in the tools they already use, and cheap enough to run at massive, repeated scale without a second thought. So here is the real question this launch raises. In a market flooded with AI models that are all becoming good enough, does being the smartest even matter anymore, or has the entire industry quietly turned into a price war wearing a benchmark chart as a disguise? If you want to see who wins that fight, subscribe, because we will be tracking exactly this story, and every price cut that follows it, as it plays out over the rest of this year.